And one of the things that really highlighted what he was feeling was he had a salt sensitivity.
Hmm.
And he was taking salt tablets before the race. He was having salt in his water during the race and doing salt every day prior. So he basically was overdosing himself on salt, which causes this vascular stiffness. It causes basically brain fog, like high blood pressure, a lot of things that a salt sensitivity can cause. So a lot of people will take a complex B and say, oh, I'm taking a B complex, but it might be doing 0 for them because their body just can't absorb it. So, and it's good information to know when you have methylations, because then you can tweak your supplement, again, going very personal, tweak it to where you're not just going to a CVS or a Walgreens and picking up, a B complex. And the difference is that blueprint doesn't mean you're actively having a problem.
Right.
Blueprint means you're already predispositioned to have a problem.
Right.
So if the doctor then takes your blood work and says, and links it and says, well, here it is. Same thing with females with hormone. A lot of us automatically want to go on hormone replacement because our hormones are all messed up, but it could just be our DNA is not getting what it needs. There are a lot of people that are now with type 2 trying other peptides besides, like, let's just say the Ozempic of the world.
Right.
They're trying other peptides that do the kind of same thing, but don't have the same, not only side effects, but they maybe don't necessarily need to lose weight. And unfortunately, when you lose weight, you lose it everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't just lose it in a place that you want to. So you start losing muscle mass as well, potentially bone density.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NuCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to NuCalm.com, Mike15 promo code. NuCalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Ashlee Foy, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about the amazing things you're doing with Renewology, specifically DNA testing and sort of customizing therapy for people. I'm so pumped about what you do for a living. I am so excited about today. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Mike. Yeah, I was super pumped once I entered into this space. So very excited about this episode.
Well, the value you bring is incredible, absolutely incredible. And I want people to understand that there is a way to customize therapy to them, right? And you guys are doing the testing that helps to do that. That, I think, first of all, it's the wave of the future for healthcare, right? But it's also a big, big deal when you're talking about your overall health and not a one size fits all model for every, you know what I mean?
It just doesn't work anymore. That
Exactly.
One size fits all.
You just throw it up against the wall to see if it sticks, and that's not the way it should be done. You're doing it the way it should be done. So anyway, I'm super excited for this. I hide it well, right?
You do.
So where were you born?
I was born in Bradenton, Florida, which is the west coast of Florida.
Yeah.
In a very small town at the time. Now it's becoming Siesta Key. Everybody kind of goes there for vacation now, but very small town. And it was a beachy town when I grew up in the 70s. But grew up there, came over to the East Coast, West Palm Beach, to start college, and did college. I was pre-med. I was going to go to med school. And my dad was like, look, we're all supporting you, but if you don't really want to do this, because it's a long commitment, don't do it. So I was thinking about it and I said, I really don't know if I love medicine enough to be a doctor or if I just want to be in the space. So at the time, physician's assistants were actually becoming very, very new and popular.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do, it's a master's. I was like, it's 2.5, 3 years. I can kind of get my feet wet. I can write prescriptions. I'm pretty much very similar to a nurse practitioner. And I said, let me try this first. And if I love it so much, I can always go back. And I went, got my degree, worked in plastic surgery and dermatology. And I just didn't feel that it was my life calling. I loved medicine, I loved wellness, but doing the clinical piece of it, I just didn't feel overly fulfilled.
Mm.
And a dermatologist that I was working with was starting a company. It was during the dot-com boom. I'm going to age myself really quickly here, but during 1998. So don't judge.
I wouldn't.
So he said, I want to start a company, a .com, one for physicians, one for consumers. Do you want to do it with me? And I was, early 20s. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I can always go
Mhm.
back to clinical. I can always go back. So we started a company. Dermdex was our physician portal. It was physician protected, and skinstore.com, which is still viable today, owned by a much larger company, was the consumer site. And it was basically just like we have now thousands, millions of companies that basically bring multiple brands together in one hub so that consumers and physicians could buy multiple things in one shopping cart.
Yeah.
And it was so new that we actually had to mail out catalogs just to get people to order, because people really just didn't order from the web at that time.
Yeah.
So we grew it for about 5 years, very, very successful, and a large pharmaceutical company wanted to buy basically the derm space that we had. And we sold it. So I've then had my first child, decided to take off some time to have my baby and figure out what my next adventure would be. And then I joined L'Oreal.
Mhm.
And really, I joined them because they were at the time buying physician protected uh, skincare products. So, like SkinCeuticals, La Roche Posay, Vichy. And I had kind of that insight because I had already worked with the company on a different level and kind of knew the movements of everything. So I joined L'Oreal, and 4 years later realized I was not a big corporate company type of gal. I liked the small startups, regional, kind of get into everything type of person. So from there, I just basically helped companies that wanted to come to the United States. I did international companies that wanted to come here. I did companies that were regional that wanted to expand nationally, and helping them in that wellness space. So I've always been in wellness 30 years. A lot of supplement companies, a lot of different, medical equipment type companies. And then up to 2 years ago, I realized there was a missing piece to this puzzle.
Mhm.
And that missing piece is that we tend to buy things because a famous person recommends it, an athlete, my neighbor, best friend, but we don't really know if it's right for us.
Right.
And we're blindly just taking supplements. We're blindly doing things that we think are beneficial to us, just because the science says or because a doctor says, but we really don't know if it's right for our bodies.
Right.
And it could be doing more harm than good. So
Mhm.
as I dove into that, I literally said, I'm going to take the leap of faith and start a company.
Hmm.
And really taking that company from, it started as do DNA, find out all of the things that are going on in your body and your blueprint, and link it to a wellness protocol, which included supplements. And for that, we realized the physicians were reaching out to us saying, we want to offer what you offer to our patients. And as that journey kind of came to a head, I realized the physicians are losing their patients because now the world is telehealth,
Mhm.
it's Google MDs, it's Chat GPT MDs. Everybody's kind of diagnosing themselves, and we're losing the relationship that we had with our practitioners and physicians. And so I thought about it and said, what if we bring everything to the physician space? Everything that we offer, we give to them so that they can offer it to their patients. So we started doing that. We built a wholesale team that calls on physicians, all different types, and realized that a lot of these longevity, wellness, on the cutting edge physicians, younger physicians, are utilizing peptides.
Mhm.
And I said, what if we also partner with the second largest pharmaceutical grade manufacturer and bring these peptides to the physician and pass along that savings to them? So instead of, like, for example, 503B pharmacy compounding it, and obviously it's at a high price because it's one by one by one, we can reduce that cost by manufacturing in bulk. So that just kind of hit off. And we realized a lot of physicians orthopedics are using peptides for recovery from surgery and injury. Oncologists are using it post-cancer treatment to boost up their immune system with TA1. There's a lot of peptides for a lot of different things. It's not just weight loss. So from there, we also included hormone replacement because in that longevity journey, as we age, we also need to supplement hormone replacement, male and female. So we added that to our bag. And then we also added IV therapies like NAD, Myers cocktail, things that, patients are going into and getting from the physician. So now we're kind of like this large ecosystem of wellness things that a physician that really truly wants to put their patient on a VIP protocol, meaning just for them, they can start with DNA and blood work and link those two, meaning let's just say the blood work shows you might be tinkering on type 2 diabetes. And then your blueprint says, oh yeah, you're blueprinted to have diabetes. He then can say, not only are you blueprinted to have type 2 diabetes, but you're also on the verge of it. Let's take the actions today. And the same thing goes for a lot of different things, kidney and liver filtration, Alzheimer's. So all of those things now we can actually test for your blueprint, but also connect it with your blood work and say, now we can do a protocol that really can give you not only the quality of life, but a longer life and push that disease down the road.
So you mentioned a couple of terms. NAD was one, but you also mentioned something.
TA1.
Sorry?
TA1.
Yeah, TA1, but you also mentioned something before that started with an M.
NAD was the only N, I think.
Well, there was an M.
Oh, an M? Oh, Myers, like a Myers cocktail?
Well, Myers, you mentioned that, but there was something before that. MS.
Well, listen, I am old and I don't remember.
Sorry. It's okay.
So I'm trying to think.
It was a technical term, and you were talking about doctors, and you were talking about supplying them with, and then you mentioned M something, and I was going to ask you, and I lost being older, right? I lost the term, but okay. So NAD and TA1, can you explain to our listeners, because we're in 66 countries worldwide now. And so I guarantee you there are listeners that are not sure what those are. Can you explain what those are, like kind of define it for us?
Sure. TA1 is a peptide, and all peptides are just a chain of amino acids.
Okay.
And they tell your body what to do. So one might say, produce more growth hormone. One might say, you're not as hungry.
Mm-hmm.
One might say the brain function and your neurons in your brain and to trigger those. So they all kind of have a little job that they do, and they all work very differently. NAD is a supplement. Our bodies produce NAD.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when you're low in NAD, it causes other things to break down. And especially when it comes to DNA and the transfer of remaking DNA, you want to keep your DNA strands long as possible. As you age, they get shorter and shorter. And there's actually a peptide that caps that DNA and keeps them long. So there's so many things, but those are just basically treatment options. NAD would be more in the supplement space. TA1 is more in the peptide space.
Gotcha. So when we're, so let me ask you this. So how can peptides help with like type 2 diabetes? Like my dad has had type 2 diabetes for 20 some years. I'm pre-diabetic, but I'm not type 2 diabetes or diabetic. I was at one time, and I lost a bunch of weight and got it reversed. Um, can peptides help with that kind of treatment?
hmm And it can also help with the insulin production, because that's the key
Yeah,
is, when you've got type 1 is you just don't have that production.
right.
Type 2, it'll help increase and basically regulate your insulin production as you eat.
So
And
would
one
it
of the
reduce your insulin resistance?
yes,
Okay,
absolutely. And that's kind of how semaglutide works.
gotcha.
Is, the peptides for weight loss, it's kind of how it works is, and that's how they triggered it from type 2, because that's where it started, was type 2 diabetes treating type 2, and realized it also helps with weight loss, because the reason it helps with weight loss is it's regulating everything and helping with insulin resistance.
Right.
So, but absolutely. And there are a lot of people that are now with type 2 trying other peptides besides, like, let's just say the Ozempic of the world.
Right.
um, they're trying other peptides that do the kind of same thing, but don't have the same, not only side effects, but maybe don't necessarily need to lose weight. And unfortunately, when you lose weight, you lose it everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't just lose it in a place that you want to. So you start losing muscle mass as well, potentially bone density. So you just really want to be careful with that.
Yeah. So a friend of mine was on GLP-1,
Which is,
and he took these shots, and he told me, he said, I'll eat this much food and I'll feel like I ate this much.
yes.
Right. And he
Mhm.
lost a ton of weight. Well, at one point he forgot that he had taken a shot, and he took a second shot that day. He thought he was going to die.
Yeah,
It just like, right. So people need to be careful with this stuff, uh,
100%.
and make sure that, you know, they remember that they took their shot. Right. So can we go back for
Just
just
to
a second?
just to jump
Oh,
on
go
that
ahead.
real
Yeah.
quick
Go ahead.
about being careful, is
Sure.
that peptides are everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's very important to realize that there are research peptides that don't go under the same guidelines as a medical physician only grade peptide.
Okay.
And there's a lot of companies, especially China companies and companies from other countries, jumping into the market and selling these peptides, especially in the United States. And you really need to be careful, because you
Mhm.
really don't know what's in it, and you're injecting it into your body.
Yeah.
So it's not going through your digestive system and kind of breaking up.
No
It's
filtration.
full
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So it is very important to know what you're buying, where you're getting it from, and also have the care of a physician just in case something were to happen.
Well,
So
that's why I admire what you're doing so much. The DNA testing, making sure that you have a blueprint for each person, because everybody's different,
yeah,
right? We're all unique. We all have different ways of methylating things and different things we can, right? We're all different. I mean,
sure.
I'm different than my dad, right? Although I was 51 years old when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, my dad was 51 years old.
Mhm.
Same age, right? Kind of ironic, but right. But
It's in your blueprint.
we're different people, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah. So anyway, so okay. So can we go back just a bit?
Mhm.
Okay. So you were born in Bradenton. You grew up in Bradenton, right? It sounds like you graduated high school in Bradenton, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
By the way, full disclosure, my wife and I love Siesta Key. Absolutely love Siesta Key. It's one of our favorite places on the planet. We lived in Tampa for a year,
Oh yeah.
and I sold new homes, and we meandered down there, went to lunch at the Don Cesar and all this stuff, right? And we got lost in Siesta Key, and we're like, okay, I could live here, right?
Yeah.
Now,
The beaches
naturally,
are amazing.
I picked a house that was like $2.5 million, right? But I looked at the
We
house
all
and
do.
yeah, I could live there for the rest of my life, It was really so it's like, okay, we've got something to work towards. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was really cool. So growing up in Bradenton, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
I think because it was small, it was a beach town. Everybody knew everybody. My dad was in law and politics, and
Mm.
everybody kind of knew him. And it was just nice to know that you probably could run into people that you knew or that were part of your family at that time. And there wasn't a lot to get in trouble with. It was either we went to the cow pastures or we went to the beach. There wasn't a lot of stuff to do.
One was left, one was right, right?
Yeah, it was like, which way are we going?
Right. There's a fork in the road. You have two choices.
Yeah, so it was kind of like simple.
Right.
And I miss that part of life where life is simple, it's easy. The mistakes we made weren't dramatic and big, and now it's just complicated. No one was recording us while we were having our parties on the beach. And now it's just complicated. So I miss like the simplicity of what it used to be.
Yeah. Not everybody had a phone recorder in their pocket, right? You know.
Yeah.
Ugh, right. Different time. So when you went to high school, did you have a favorite subject?
I did. It was science. It's always been science.
Yeah.
Like my grandmother was a nurse. Like it's always been kind of, I guess, in my blueprint to love this space and love the innovation of it, because it has grown significantly from 40 years ago to today. And I think that's why I love this journey, is that we're able to provide to everybody the advancements in science.
So I'm guessing you looked up to your grandmother.
I did. She was one of my favorite people in the world.
And she was a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
What was her favorite thing about being a nurse?
I think she was just a caregiver. She liked to
loved on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She liked to take care of people.
Oh, bless her heart. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you got a chance to get to know her when you were a kid. So in high school, did you have a favorite teacher?
I'm going to say probably yes, but he was also my tennis coach. So I think that's why we were like, he was my favorite, just because we spent so much time together. I played tennis through school, through college. And it was something that I did constantly. So I think that's probably one of the reasons that we spent so much time together.
Well, that's awesome. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
My father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your dad was a politician. What else did he do?
Well, he's in law and politics.
He was an attorney. Okay.
Yeah. And he basically, that's what he did, and then played tennis with me. So we were always as well together.
What type of law did he practice?
Well, he was the state attorney, and then he kind of moved into some other parts of law.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So what was the single most important thing you learned from your dad?
Stay strong to your word. If you say something and you say you're going to do something,
do it.
If you give a promise, it's a handshake.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a contract. It doesn't need to be anything. The moment that you give your word, you do it.
Wow.
So.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you leave high school.
Yep.
I'm guessing tennis was your favorite sport.
It was.
You go to school, you go to college. Where do you go and why?
I went to Palm Beach Atlantic, which was a Christian college in West Palm Beach. And the reason I went there was because I had a friend that was going there as well, but they really took the time to prepare you for med school. Yeah. So they wanted to make sure that you passed your MCATs, you did the things that you needed to do to get into college, which I was able to get into Duke University Med School, I think because of just the way that they had the mentorship, the one-on-one. And I also wanted to be in a very small college. Like, I come from a small town. I felt like the bigger college could have overwhelmed me. And I just really wanted to be kind of in that smaller space. And I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. And I loved West Palm Beach at the time. I think it was just a great college experience.
So you went to Duke Medical School?
No, I got accepted, but that's when I went to...
That's when you made the shift?
Yeah, that's when I went to Nova for my PA program.
Gotcha. So Duke is considered, or people call it, the Harvard of the South.
I would say yes.
My son was interested in going to Duke, and I checked into what the annual tuition was. Mm-hmm. and it was $4,000 a year higher than Harvard. Are you sure?
You're like, when you want to check that.
Okay, right? Yeah, we had to have a little reset.
Well, I think that's why my dad said,
yeah,
if you're doing this,
yeah,
like you're doing it
I mean,
100%.
yeah, but think about the wisdom there, right? Because there are people, and your dad probably knew a few, that they get into medical school and go, oh, this isn't for me, right? Or they get through medical school because their family expects them to. They get into medicine and they're like, this is just not right. I know a lot of people that, yeah, I know a lot of people that will take their kid and have them go shadow a doctor for a while, right? Or go shadow a nurse, go work in a hospital as a candy striper, that kind of thing, because they really need to be around what it's all about. We have an idea from media of what it's like to be a doctor, but we don't have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a different world. That's why people like your grandmother, I admire so much. My father-in-law was a physician's assistant for 20 some years. I admire him like you can't believe. He was a medic in the Navy in Vietnam and then became a physician's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, there's a reason why I was not in medicine. To do that is, I think, remarkable. Yeah. Where you care so much for people that you'll do these things to help them live healthier lives. You know, I just really admire, and that's why I admire what you do so much. So you leave college, you graduate from college, and you go to Nova for 2 years, you said, or two and a half?
2.5. It was a master's program, master's of medical science program, their PA program. So I would say, like,
when you graduated, you were a physician's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I had to pass, obviously, all the state boards and stuff, but yes.
Gotcha. So basically that prepared you to do it, right? So what was the single most important thing you learned attending Nova?
I think the patient care piece of it, you know, the fact that you are really putting other people's lives in your hands. And it doesn't matter which field you go into. They look at you saying you're going to direct them the right way for their health and the longevity of their health and their well-being. And I think that's a big piece that, you know, you have to take into consideration anytime you're going into, especially medicine, is that you touch people and you touch them personally and you touch them health-wise. And you can either impact them in a good way or a bad way. Yeah. Very quickly. And I think that's like a huge piece to going into medicine.
The beautiful thing about what you do and how you've done it is you have your grandmother's heart.
I do.
Right? Where you're loving people, right? And your way of loving them is to help them live healthier lives, live longer, that kind of thing. So we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Renewology, and we're going to kind of get a little more specific. And the reason for it is, I think it's incredibly important that our listeners hear what's available out there, because quite honestly, this is the first time I had heard about this in terms of this sort of treatment and the way that you go about customizing it. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Ashlee Foy, and we're talking about Renewology. We were talking before about basically your life, right? And your career and sort of your life story. What's interesting to me is what you bring to the table in terms of caring for people. And it's pretty obvious through your career what you've done to help people live healthier lives. What I love about what you're doing now is with Renewology, and it's renewology.com is your website, right?
Correct.
You're literally bringing people in and you're saying, look, we're not going to give you the same treatment that works for somebody else. We're not going to just slap it up against which is, by the way, what medicine does way too much. We're going to just slap it up against the wall and see what sticks. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to actually take your DNA, we're going to test it, we're going to get ourselves a blueprint, and then we're going to figure out from there what you need. It may be that you need, like you said, more insulin production. You might need less insulin sensitivity or more insulin sensitivity, right? Less insensitivity. I love it. Less insulin insensitivity. Let's talk in
Say that
circles.
3 times.
Yeah, we're going to confuse somebody, right? The idea behind it, and this is right. So insulin sensitivity is something that you lose as you get older and as you get fatter. And I can say that because I've lost 162 pounds.
Oh, congratulations.
I got, well, it was not easy. Okay.
It's never
I
easy.
lost it later in life. I didn't lose it, right? I lost 62 pounds in 2 months when I was 18 years old. That was not nearly what I had to do over a 4-year period to lose 162 pounds. But I did do it. And part of how I did it was I started paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped ignoring all these warning signs and all these things that were right. I started paying attention to my health and I started making me a priority. What I love about what you're doing is you're making everybody a priority. Every person that walks in the door of your organization is a priority and they're unique, right? So as we get older, we start to, let's call it decay. We start to just decline, right? Like my hair's going, I'm, right? Sorry. Right. But, I have more wrinkles, right? Yeah. Bags under my eyes, right? Sure. I actually do sleep at night. I slept 9.5 hours last night, but wow, anyway, but it's one of those things where your body just doesn't repair the way it did back when you were younger. And part of that is peptide production, right? NAD production, all that kind of thing. But all of us age differently. All of us grew up differently. All of us have different characteristics in our bodies. That's that DNA blueprint. And that's what I love about what you're doing is you're testing people and then you're coming back and going, okay, here's what the test is showing us, right? You're going to need this peptide. You're going to need this, some NAD. You're going to need this, right? And it's going to help you because this is what your DNA test is telling us you're lacking. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we need to get you back to where your body is repairing again and that kind of thing, right? Can you talk about, let's say somebody comes in today and you do a DNA test on them. Can you use an example of somebody that came in, you did a DNA test on them and you were, let's say this, you were surprised by the results. They were surprised by the results, but then you were able to put a modality together for them, a method, Yeah,
absolutely. We actually sponsored a GNCC racer, and they raced 3 hours in the heat through the woods, straight the entire 3 hours.
What's GNCC stand for?
It's dirt off-road. I don't know what the actual.
It's cross country something, right?
Well, yeah, and it's like in the woods. It's dirt bikes in the woods.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and one of his things was that he was feeling severe fatigue mid-race, and he wasn't being able to recover. And that was actually not allowing him to complete races the right way with the strength and the endurance. And his coaches were changing up things. He was changing up things. We connected and I said, I'd really think that you need to do a DNA test to see what your blueprint is. Mm-hmm. And especially as an athlete, because everybody grows muscle differently. Everybody has different nutrient needs, things like that. So he said, absolutely, let's do it. And so we did it. And one of the things that really highlighted what he was feeling was he had a salt sensitivity.
Hmm.
And he was taking salt tablets before the race. He was having salt in his water during the race and doing salt every day prior. So he basically was overdosing himself on salt, which causes this vascular stiffness. It causes basically brain fog, like high blood pressure, a lot of things that a salt sensitivity can cause. Like if you even think about high blood pressure, there's probably, I'm going to say, a percentage of Americans that are on high blood pressure medication because of a salt sensitivity, but they just didn't know. So they're on blood pressure medicine when all they really had to do is reduce salt, and they probably could get it under control and not be on a pharmaceutical medication the rest of their life.
I was
That causes,
on blood pressure medication and I passed out.
yeah, like it's
My blood pressure dropped
dropped.
because I was losing weight so fast. But my blood pressure basically adjusted and we never adjusted the dosage. And
Yeah,
so I literally got to a place to where I couldn't see. Like I was trying to walk out of a house and it all went white.
yeah,
And
very
I just
scary.
kind of stood there for a second and waited, and eventually it came back, right? But it was like I didn't know it was weird. And
And it's very scary.
big time scary. And so I
Yeah.
ended up just stopping it without even talking to my doctor. And then I contacted my doctor the next day and I'm like, or pardon me, a couple of days later, because it was on the weekend. I contacted her on Monday. I said, hey, just so you know, I'm not taking it anymore. And she goes, that's a good move. Let's stop taking that.
Yep,
You know, wow.
absolutely. So basically then saying, okay, let's, work with your coaches to put you on a different protocol. And when you're on a salt sensitivity, you have to basically do like a ×2 potassium blend to help with the salt load. And you still want to stay hydrated, but there's other ways to stay hydrated versus just sodium.
Right.
And making those changes, plus, how he builds muscle was completely different than what he was doing to build muscle.
Right.
So there was so much knowledge in the report that he was like, wow, I didn't realize that for example, he was supposed to be not a meat eater, that
Mhm.
he shouldn't get his protein from meat. He should get it from plant because his body doesn't digest meats properly. So there's so many things and like actionable things that he could do to change the way that he rides. Good.
Sorry. So the blueprint said that he shouldn't eat red meat or meat, period.
He shouldn't be getting his protein from meats.
Wow.
He should be getting it from vegetables.
So it's that specific.
Oh, it's down to how you learn stress, how you deal with stress. If
Not
you
well.
are
Not
like,
well.
I'm like, well, if you have a habit forming, those types of, skin, longevity of the skin, like it's very extensive and it tells you a lot of things. Some things are, I would say, maybe not medically necessary, but there's a lot that will tell you a lot about yourself and how to have a good life if you
Yeah.
just understand what you're blueprinted for. And the difference is that blueprint doesn't mean you're actively having a problem.
Right.
Blueprint means you're already predispositioned to have a problem.
Right.
So if the doctor then takes your blood work and links it and says, well, here it is. Same thing with females with hormone. A lot of us automatically want to go on hormone replacement because our hormones are all messed up, but it could just be our DNA is not getting what it needs. And it could be that simple. We had one client that she had severe leg pain. She thought she would, of course, going to Google MD and Googling leg pain and what's happening. Come to find out, she was just severely deficient in magnesium. And she just needed to add magnesium into her diet and into her supplement world. And she's completely different. Like it completely went away. So a lot of things can be that easy.
Yeah.
But if you were told that you potentially could have Alzheimer's and it's in your DNA, wouldn't you today, before symptoms occur, make the changes to have healthy neurons in your brain, healthy brain waves, blood circulation, all of those things to either push it down the road to when you're 80, 90 versus 50, or not get it at all? And I think that's the difference, is that we call it, instead of preventative medicine, it's disease interception.
Yeah.
It's intercepting disease before it happens. It's being proactive versus reactive, because once the symptoms are there, you're already on that journey.
Yeah.
If you don't even have the symptoms, you never even have to worry about it. So I think that's the difference, is basically stopping something from happening.
So I have a family history of Alzheimer's.
My dad passed away of Alzheimer's.
We lost
So
my grandmother at Alzheimer's. We just lost my aunt to
and
Alzheimer's.
it's
Yeah.
very, very sad. And that's one of those things where if you could know,
Yeah.
because you really just don't, that is a very hard thing to go through, not only for the person going through it, but also for the family.
It's harder on the family than it is the person going through it, I think, you know?
I mean, I think I saw parts of, like, because my dad's a very strong-willed, strong, intelligent man.
Yeah.
I think when he was losing that, he would get very frustrated because he was losing that
Yeah.
strength as a man and the father of our, household.
Mm-hmm.
But after, it's definitely very, very hard on the family.
Well,
So,
it's got to be one of those things where he had certain standards, and your dad, let's be honest, had really high standards. And then his brain isn't living up to that standard, and that disconnect is just frustrating as all get out. It had to be.
well, if you think about, like, my dad, he's a Great Depression baby.
Yeah.
He stopped high school at ninth grade, and
Yeah.
then had to work with the family to provide food, and then went back to college and has 3 degrees. So he's that strong where he does what he needs to do to make it happen.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for him to battle.
I can imagine. So somebody comes in, they take this DNA test, you get the blueprint, then what happens?
Well, they'll get the blueprint, and they'll be able to log in. They get an email saying your results are ready. They log into the portal, and it gives them everything. They can look at their labs, so it'll look at, like, your thyroid, your kidney and liver filtration, cardiovascular, all of it. And then the ones that are scored high, meaning these are things that you need to watch out for, they can click on it and read a little bit more about it. We also do a methylation test, which basically tests for methylations. Like, for example, a popular one is a methylation for folate. And when you have that methylation, you can't absorb folate, and you have to have it either in a fermented form, a natural form, because your body's not going to be able to convert it.
Right.
So a lot of people will take a complex B and say, oh, I'm taking a B complex, but it might be doing 0 for them because their body just can't absorb it. So, and it's good information to know when you have methylations, because then you can tweak your supplement, again, going very personal, tweak it to where you're not just going to a CVS or a Walgreens and picking up, a B complex. You're getting something that is, okay, I need to get it in a different form so that my body will absorb it. So it's that detailed. And it goes into, which supplements they should be taking based off of their results so that they keep everything, their levels correct. And then from there, we are actually creating right now currently a peptide DNA test because peptides are so popular. We worked with our lab and said, let's create just a peptide DNA to where it goes off their DNA and says, these are the peptides that not only you should look into trying and starting, but which ones work best for you.
Right.
And because we have 50 plus different peptides.
Wow.
So we're going to do that. And also we're doing a DNA gut, because that's the core of wellness, is your gut. Everything that we put into our mouths goes into our gut. And if your gut's not healthy, your body's probably not healthy. So now we're starting to break it down into more detail. So if somebody wanted to have more of I think a focused DNA test because they have concerns, like, for example, let's say Crohn's disease, those types of things. So we're creating now mini, which are a lot less cost, but it could be a concern for somebody like colon cancer, somebody that they have a family history of colon cancer. They're very, concerned. We now can then really give them something very specific. That's not a $500, $700 test. It's a $99 test because it's very specialized for just what they're looking for.
So let's say somebody comes in and they do the $700 test. How long does it take from the time that they do I guess it's a swab, right?
It's a swab. Well, we have a swab and a finger prick, because some of the ones that we're going into now, to be able to get more detailed, it's a finger prick as well.
Gotcha. How long does it take for the results to come back once the test is taken?
Usually about a week to 2 weeks, depending. We always say 2 weeks because 1 week is usually just getting it back to the lab and those types of things, but usually maximum 2 weeks.
And then once it comes back, you have access to it as the patient.
The patient does.
And then does the patient come in and sit with you? Do they schedule an appointment and come in and sit and go over things, or how does that work?
No, we do have a VIP physician and PharmD on staff. Where we kind of turned was bringing it back to the physician.
Gotcha.
So now when the physician does it, the physician can get those same results into their EMR, and they can sit down now with their physician and practitioner and go through it with a medical professional one-on-one. And that's, I think, where the physicians loved it, is that they have a lot more information about the patient, especially if you're a longevity oncology doctor, someone that really that cares enough to want to say, let's specialize your protocol. They can now have all those results. They can see their mutations, the genes that they carry, all those things. And it's in a easy enough report to where a consumer can read it and understand it, and they don't need to have a medical degree. And then there's a little extra for the doctor that says, okay, I'm going to now give you exactly what the blueprint is saying.
What's an EMR?
Electronic medical record. So
there
now you go to the doctor, they don't have paper anymore.
I have no idea what we're talking about, so I wanted to make sure that everybody that's listening to it. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just their medical.
The medical profession has a lot of these terms, just like we have a lot of terms in law. We have a lot of terms in real estate, that kind of thing, right? And what I try to do is if something comes up and I'm not sure what it is, I try to make sure that I ask. So are people going to Reneuology.com, or are they going to their physician? How does this work? If somebody's interested in getting this test done and potentially having somebody like a physician look at it, how can they go about doing that?
Their best bet is to go to Renuology.com and order the test. They can always share it with their physician if they, because not every physician is utilizing DNA for their protocols. But we also, again, we do direct to consumer, but we really focus now on the physicians because we want the physicians to have access to these tests, access to the advancements easy versus having to do their research, find out which one's best. So really, if it's just a consumer, going and getting the test is the first step.
Yeah.
Because, and again, like I said, the results are very, very consumer friendly. They can read it and it outlines to them, what does this mean? So when it says, for example, liver and kidney filtration is low, what does that mean for me? It means X, Y, Z, and these are the things that you need to do to make your liver and kidney function strong.
Gotcha. So would somebody go into their doctor and say, hey, I went to Renuology.com and I ordered a test, and here's my test, and help me?
Let's go through. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I would do if I was a patient, is especially knowing the information would be, I'm on these medications. This is what my blood work is saying. Can we connect all the dots?
Right.
Because again, it's just a screenshot of one piece of it. Another piece is your blood work active today.
Yeah.
Another piece is what medications are you on? What ailments are you having? You could be seeing symptoms of things, but you don't really recognize them yet.
Right.
Or your blood work's not showing any type of concern. The DNA could bring a lot of that into play.
Cool. And it's Renuology. So Renuology.com is where people would go to order this test, have it done, and then take it into their physician and say, hey, here, let's customize my treatment.
Correct. Absolutely.
Beautiful. So thank you for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I hope you have an amazing day today.
Oh, you too, Mike. Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. and the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.